All right, folks, thank you for joining us today. This is our first ever Real Estate Mastery webinar, and this is something that Tristan and I have kind of visioned over the last probably 6 months and decided to hold off through the summer because we're all busy, probably more personally than we are professionally, but we thought we would kick this off in September, and this is going to be something that we carry forward. So we're going to do these the first and third Wednesday of every single month. We will always include all of the time zones on there because I know we've got people on this call from the East Coast and West Coast and a lot in between. So we're glad to have everybody on this morning. And you see what you see is what you get as far as what we're going to cover. And I'm going to intentionally not put out the topics. I'm only going to put out the month's topics that we're going to have. And the reason for doing that is because obviously the industry is constantly evolving. There's things happening. Earlier this year, there was the big thing with Realtor.com and their changes. And so when things like that happen, we're going to talk about it. We're going to make it a topic of conversation. So we're intentionally not putting out the topics. Like, for example, I won't put out October's topics until after the 18th class. So after the 18th webinar of September, will I then put out the October topic. So just so you know, so you have a heads up, we'll put you on an email list. So we'll always put this out to you, and we will also always be posting it to our content, our real estate and mortgage content and marketing Facebook page. You're welcome to share it. This is specifically, we are designing this and aiming it to our real estate partners, people that we have a relationship with. So whether or not we're in your market or whether or not you're a part of our Facebook group, you're on this list. That doesn't mean that you can't share it with others, because feel free. We just want to collaborate and share and give out as much as we can. So without further ado, I think most of you, if not all of you, know Tristan Ahumada very, very well. So it is an honor to have him be a big part of this. He will probably be on almost every class unless there's something unique going on. And if so, I'll take it over or we'll have a guest host on. But let's dive right in, Tristan, to the very first topic and any kind of intro comments that you want to make. Welcome, brother.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. How's everybody doing out there? And there's a little chat box too if you want to chat there and tell us how you're doing. Today we're going to talk about follow-up, and I think we approach it a little bit differently, and this is why we've always been successful with Google pay-per-click leads and Facebook leads, not just the Realtor.com or the Zillow ones, right? And thank you, Shelly. I'm glad you're doing well. Me too. I had kidney stones. I'm great now. Thank you. Just had to answer that one. And so I wanted to really break down the follow-up system specifically for buyer leads. So wherever you're getting them from, specifically for buyer leads. If you have questions about how to follow up with seller leads or with other types of leads that you get, you'll see that it's very similar, because really we're approaching this as a relationship business. The one thing that we're not doing, and Jeff is the same way, is we're not approaching this as a business of hardcore closing, right? And there's a cultural shift. Here's a book that I just finished up. It's a small little book by Seth Godin. It's called This is Marketing, and it's so tiny. It's like, it almost fits in your pocket. And he goes over how the marketing world has changed since he's been in it. And the number one thing you get out of that is that you need to be storytelling. You need to be telling a story as you're communicating with people. And it starts from the very beginning, from your approach. Now, if it's in follow-up, you don't ever want to be that person that's always going for the close. You want to go for an appointment, and you want to go for the relationship if the appointment isn't available. So I have these 9 rules I created over the process of following up for years. And rule number 1 is following up is a relationship business. And if you can't go for the appointment because they're telling you, hey, look, we're just not ready. We're 9 months out, 10 months out, a year, right? Or I'm just looking. Then you go for the relationship business. A lot of people tell you, well, you know what, just dump it. But a lot of people have told me I'm just looking and end up buying a multi-million-dollar home a few months later. So rule number one, following up is a relationship business. That's rule number one. Rule number two, follow-up allows you to disqualify. And I think from the world that we're coming from, a lot of the times people would tell you, well, just follow up. It's a numbers game, right? And you would never really disqualify, because qualifying people is just as good as not qualifying them, saying, hey, look, let's say Jeff called me and Jeff's like, you know what? No, I'm just looking. I'm never going to buy. I just love looking at homes online. Don't do anything. To me, that's super important. So I don't have to call them back ever again. I'm probably just going to leave them on a drip for auto properties that go to them. And disqualifying them allows me to save more time. So follow-up is really important for disqualifying people, and nobody talks about that as much. What do you do, Jeff, in regards to disqualifying people? Do you guys ever have that?
Actually, no. It's a word that you don't hear very often when it comes to leads, because I think they end up disqualifying by default because you just stop dripping on them. And I think that's probably the topic that we need to hone in on too with this message is, I think most of us we're wired for speed to lead, but we're not wired for the drip. And yeah. I think Tristan, let's get granular on the specific types of follow-up, because I think when it comes to leads, right, it comes to clients, you've got your Zillow type lead, you have your Facebook type lead, and then you have your past client, which is still a lead, right? And there's different follow-up methods for each one, and I'd like you to share kind of how you treat each one differently.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I think one of the things that I did coming into this world was for real estate was I pioneered the whole approach, because Realtor.com and Zillow didn't know the automated follow-up until I showed it to them. And that's what exploded that whole world. I had Realtor.com. I introduced Realtor.com to a company called 5 Street. And once I did that, a few months later, they purchased 5 Street, and then they gave me a t-shirt to thank me. But I would be in these rooms, in these closed rooms, and they would be saying, so tell us what to do next. Tell us what's this. And then that started everything in that process. So in regards to portal leads, which are Realtor.com and Zillow leads, the way that you still have to worry about is always come from authenticity, that genuineness, right? But you have to really approach them quickly. We do that less than a minute, less than 2 minutes. And once you've got them on the phone, the key is to keep them on the phone a longer time, because what we've noticed is 2 things. One, there are other agents that are going to be calling them. And if you've got them on the phone for a good amount of time, qualifying them, talking to them, engaging with them, and communicating in a way that they can relate with you, all the other calls that are coming in and texts, they're not coming through to them. You're still that first agent, right? Or you're that agent that communicated with them. So that's important, that you just try to build that rapport with those leads quickly and take your time with them when you have them on the phone the first time. And then second,
hey, before you move on to that, can you be more specific? Do you have any suggestions? And Shelly brings up a good point, by the way. I'm great with hot buyers and sellers, but fail in the nurture leads. And Shelly, I think that applies to everyone. But can you be more specific about how do you keep them on the phone longer? Are you talking about the weather, or are you talking about?
I think you come from contribution. A lot of the Realtor.com leads that we had were they'd come in and say, "Look, I just want to see the property," right? I say, "Great, let me set that up for you. What time do you like to see it today?" Because a lot of these come in and they want to see it today. And you don't know if they're pre-qualified. You don't know if they're working with an agent. You don't know anything about them. It just happened to us yesterday. We had somebody come in. We couldn't reach them by phone or text, but they emailed us back immediately. And so we emailed them back, and they didn't give us an address. They just gave us a street name. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck this is, right? So I emailed them back. I go, can I get an address and what's the best number to contact you at? Their response was, do you want to show me the property or not? Right? I was like, shit, of course I want to show you the property, but you don't have to be a total dick about it, right? So I didn't respond that way, but I felt it. And so I said, you know what, this deserves a phone call, right? So we happened to have their phone number. We traced it. I called them up. Her name is Joan. And then once I got her, we started talking about where she's at, right? What's the reason for her wanting to move? And so I just dug into questions that make her feel like I'm actually concerned about her. And a lot of those questions are really trying to find her motivation. So Jeff, you're a Realtor.com lead. You come in and I'm talking to you and you're like, I just want to see that property. I'm like, awesome. Let me set that up for you. Well, tell me about what other things are you looking for, Jeff? What's important to you? Just in case I come across two other ones that are off market. And I mean, you are interested in things that are not on the market yet, right, Jeff? And then like, what does that mean? Well, it means that nobody else has seen the home except you, right? So that means if you really like it, there'll be no competition. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So, Jeff, your internet keeps on going up and down, just so you know.
Okay.
You tag between red, yellow, and normal. And so what we try to do is we give them value through saying, hey, look, this is what we've got coming off. We try to hook them with something, and then they're open to talking about it. Unless they're at work, unless they're at a place where they can't talk, then we can't really do anything about it. But the worst thing you can do is if somebody has the time and you can tell their tonality where you're like, okay, you want to see the property? Great. I'll see you there at 5:30. And then you hang up, right? That's not the ideal situation. Yeah, Cherie says a lot of people forget to build that relationship when talking to leads. Yeah, one of the things that some of our agents have forgotten to do in the past is because you're not asking questions like, well, what's bringing you to the area? Are you familiar with the area? Do you need to sell a home before you purchase this one? What's the whole situation you're in? You don't really know if they need to sell a home and then they end up using a different real estate agent somewhere else to sell their home because you didn't ask the right questions. And sometimes it happens really quickly with the Realtor.com or Zillow leads. So with the Zillow leads and the Realtor.com leads, that's the first part. You need to be quick and you need to ask the right questions. And you always need to remember that you're coming from a service-based background. You always have to give, right? Like I didn't want to give this person yesterday. It was a total dig by email, right? But I was like, okay, whatever. I'm used to it. I had my little tantrum for a minute. And then I picked up the phone after we found their phone and called them. And then we locked them in. We showed them the property. And then we asked all the questions in person because that was a situation that had. But the key to the part of this other one is when you're automating a lot of these Realtor.com touches through companies like Agentology and Conversion Monster and other companies out there like Power ISA or whoever, or your personal ISAs, we've noticed that there's a difference when the median price range is lower versus higher. So luxury market versus not luxury market. And what happens is the higher you go in price point, the less they want to talk to an ISA. And the less they want to talk to somebody that's not the agent. And not only have we noticed that, but this is directly from Realtor.com's Ops City team. They're noticing the exact same thing. And so for me, that's a red flag when it comes to you having a bigger amount of success when it comes to the higher price point, because a lot of those people are used to that Nordstrom customer service, right? And unfortunately, a lot of the other price points that are lower, they don't give a shit. They're like, okay, whatever. We're used to being treated a certain way, right? And so you have to think about the demographics as well on your approach. And people don't talk about demographics. They think one script is going to kill everybody, and it doesn't. The approach has to change a lot because I'm not going to ask in certain price points, hey, are you purchasing this all cash or with a loan? Right. And that's one of my questions when we get leads in Malibu, because half of them are all cash. And so then we need to figure out those scripts. But look, when it comes to the Realtor.com leads, those are the two things, and Zillow leads, those are the two things you look for. If you've automated it, make sure that you're targeting the right demographic and the right approach. And then the other one has to be still the same thing, quickness, but authentic quickness.
This is good. So I think this, correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe everybody doesn't agree. And again, you're welcome to throw in some chats, question and answer, whatever. We're watching it, so we will respond. But I think that you hit on a good point. Everybody, just like Shelly said, everybody hits on speed to lead. Everybody knows that. That's what they're good at. Mm-hmm. But it's not just being speed to lead. It's also nurturing that lead while you're on the call. One, to block out the other people who bought that lead, and number two, to build rapport. So I think, would you say that to some extent, building a relationship with a speed to lead Zillow or Realtor.com lead, you kind of throw the scripts out a little bit? Maybe you lead in with a script, but then it just becomes to relationship building and kind of getting to know somebody and just having a conversation as if they're a cousin that you haven't talked to in a long time?
I think this is why certain personalities do better when it comes to certain leads. So like the expressives, right? The expressive drivers do such a great job talking to online leads, because not only do they really care about you, Jeff, like they want to know about you, and they also want to close you, but in a nice way, right? And if you get the opposite, which is the driver expressive, they kind of just want to close you. They want to talk, but they want to close you first. I think the other approach brings more success, and that's wanting to talk to them, engaging with them, coming from value, and then remembering that you want to set the appointment. And then you deal with amiables, more people that are kinder, softer. They don't know how to close. They don't know when to close. And so that's why always remembering the appointment in the background, right? It's a lot easier for an expressive to be like, hey, let's go out for coffee. Let's just go and talk, right? And it's going to be authentic because that's how they really are. And their tonality is like perfect. And people are going to feel more comfortable going, yeah, okay, let's do that. So it comes down to tonality as well, right? And it's something that you have to practice. Like for me, I practiced it for years, not knowing that I was going to go into real estate, but I was a telemarketer for years. So they were just molding me as a kid. Like, no, this is how you do it. This is the approach. These are the scripts. This is how, check out this person talking. And so the tonality matters a lot more than you think. You could say, I mean, I don't know if people are going to get angry, but look, I'm going to curse. You can say, fuck you, or you can say, fuck you, Jeff, right? And it's going to sound totally different. Like I'm just playing with Jeff, like, right? Or I'm really angry at him. And tonality matters the most on the phone. But I know you guys have heard that. So going from rule number 2, which is follow-up, allows you to disqualify, to rule number 3, which is no. No is sometimes better than yes. Here's one thing that most people don't realize, and I didn't realize it either until I read this book. A lot of you have heard about this book, Never Split the Difference, by Chris Voss. And Chris Voss is, he worked for the FBI, and he was the FBI expert hostage negotiator. So a lot of the examples that he brings up here are from life and death situations. Like there is no middle ground. This person's either going to die because I'm negotiating their life, or they're going to live, and it's going to be because I was really good at negotiating. And he brings up something that for years because we're bombarded by people telling us that we need to get to yes first. He says we don't. We need to get to no first. And it took like the first 3-4 chapters to really start understanding what that really meant. But getting to know is really a psychological twist on what everybody's been telling you to do. And that's, we're so accustomed to hearing, Jeff and everybody else out there, that Well, you have to agree with them, and say, well, Jeff, you drink water, don't you? Right? And Jeff's like, fuck, of course I do. Of course I drink water, right? It's such a stupid question. And when you think about it, why are you getting people to agree? They're just agreeing. And they know that you're taking them through this whole line that just seems so corny, right? And then he says, why don't you just twist it and say, start off the whole conversation by putting them in a position to say no, because then they feel that sense of power, like it's back on them, like they have control because they just said no to you and it was okay. You're giving them permission to say no to you. So he says, instead of just going in and saying what I said, why don't you try something different? And when you're calling people, say, hey, Jeff, is this a bad time right now? And then people are like, no, it's a good time, right? They're giving you permission to go through. And so with his approach, he says, yes makes people defensive because they haven't been allowed to say no to you. And they fear that it's a trap because of what's been happening in our world, in our sales world, right? In our sales world, it's all hardcore closing that we came from the 60s and 70s, door-to-door salesmen, people trying to sell you brushes and water and every freaking thing you could think of at the door and on the phone, right? So yes makes us defensive. And I thought, dude, I didn't think of that way. And then that they feared it was a trap. So yeah, he says the world has conditioned us to feel defensive. Lawyers call it cornering, and we can feel it, right? Who wants to be cornered? I don't want to be cornered, right? Okay. So, but saying no makes people feel safer and gives them some type of security, and it triggers that control in their head. So ask no-oriented questions like I told you, is now a bad time to talk? And when somebody hasn't responded in a long period of time, say, hey, have you given up on me? Like one of the best emails that we created way back that's now circulated everywhere was, did I drop the ball? Right? And did I drop the ball is exactly on the psychology, which is just giving them permission to say, no, hey, no, you didn't. Right? Instead of always, Jeff, you and I are creating this whole 24 drips by farming pieces, right? And you can tell from the pieces that we've created, they're not aggressive. They're not selfish. They're not saying, hey, look what I sold. Look what I did. Look who I am. It's more focused on, hey, check out your community. Check this out. Did you know about this? Did you know about the top 5 books that I read? Here's what I recommend. It's less selfish. And that's the world we're heading into, but it's taking a lot of marketers a lot less time to figure this out. So rule number 3 is no is sometimes better than yes. Pick up this book by Chris Voss. It's freaking amazing. Number 4, if you don't reach a prospect, vary in your methods. One of the things that pisses me off the most is when I ask my agent, so did you get a hold of the new lead? They're like, no. Okay. Did you call him? Yeah. Did you text him? No, I haven't texted him. Did you email him? No. Did you check him out on social to get his profile? No. I just called him one time. It pisses me off so much, dude. It's like, this thing does so much more than just call. Have it in your mind to do this, at least to start with these leads, regardless of where they come from. Call, hang up, leave a voicemail, text them, say, hey, Jeff, I just left you a voicemail. I'm sorry I missed you, but I saw that you went on our website to visit for homes in Malibu. Are you looking for a house or a condo? And then copy paste that into an email, right? With a headline, I just left you a message.
So if somebody doesn't have automation set up, let's just assume they don't. Is there a certain, give us that order one more time. And also, is there a time stamp that you would put on it? Like, call.
Yeah, here's what I recommend. If you don't have automation, then I recommend that every lead that you're getting in, regardless of where it's coming from, whether it's Facebook, Google, Realtor.com, Zillow, wherever, the first thing that you want to do is you want to pick up the phone and call them. That's what you want to do. Pick up the phone, call them, let it ring 3 to 4 times, then hang up. Do not leave a voicemail, right? They probably were busy, or they probably finally saw it on the 3rd or 4th ring and they couldn't pick it up, or they were on the other line, whatever. 15 seconds to 20 seconds later, or approximately there, pick up the phone again and call them. And this time, let it go to voicemail if they don't pick up. If they pick up, they're going to be a little bit concerned, like, why am I getting a call twice, right? This must be important, or what's going on. So make sure that if you do get them on the phone, your tonality is right, and you don't sound super salesy, because that'll piss them off a lot more, all right? If it goes to voicemail, leave them a quick message and let them know who you are and why you're calling. Usually for us, they just visited our website, and I just want to get a better idea of what you're looking for. Jeff, I'm not sure if you're looking for a house or a condo or just a piece of land. I'm not sure if you want to build your dream home. So give me a call when you get a chance. I want to get a better understanding of what you're looking for so we don't spam you. You're like, okay. And then
so that was 15 to 20 seconds after the initial call.
You got it.
Okay.
Then you pick up the phone and you text them as soon as you hang up. And you say, hey, Jeff, I just left you a voicemail. I'm sorry I couldn't reach you. You came through our website. I wanted to see how we could help you, or something similar to that. Or I'm not sure if you're looking for a house or a condo. I'm not sure if you're looking for a home ready to move into, or a fixer, something along those lines. Always wondering what they're looking for, right? Then what you do after that text, you copy it. I usually just copy it and I just email it, the exact same thing. And the headline or the subject line is, hey, Jeff, I just left you a voicemail. Then usually if I don't get a response, and the perfect example is I got one. So I still call and text leads that we get from Google PPC, only because some of them come in and it says, looking for a $50 million property. So I get excited every time. Anyways, I texted them. It was Labor Day, and I did the exact same thing, and they didn't respond back. And then I do that nudge text that we also introduced to the industry here. 15 minutes, 20 minutes later, I sent a text and I said, let me know. And then the guy responded and says, hey, look, I'm just looking. I'm not even sure if I'm going to move to this area. It's going to be either between here or Chicago, and I'm leaning more towards Chicago. And I said, let me see if I can find it. But I said, okay, not a problem. I know that this is a Google PPC lead, and I know that I can't be. Oh, it's Nathan. Here you go. And he goes, no, thank you. I was only browsing. I go, got it. Is it okay if I send you the app to search on? It's much easier. So we have an app. Have a great Labor Day weekend. He says, no, thank you. I'll likely be purchasing in Chicago, but I was just curious about the selection in Beverly Hills. I said, thank you. If you need a trusted agent in Chicago, please let me know. I send referrals to that area often. He says, okay, thank you. And I just put a thumbs up. Now we're following up with him slowly, right? Nurturing. Because if I try to hard close them there, I'll lose him. So there's a process to the follow-up, and there's a nudge later in the day that allows them to remember that you're there, because they're busy right now. Jeff, I don't know what you're doing, right? I don't know if you can fully respond to somebody right now as you and I are engaged, right? But if I nudge you 20, 30, 45 minutes later, you'll be like, oh, that's right. Damn. All right. Hold on, Tristan. Let me get back to you. Somebody has a question here. Hold on.
Yeah. What is your, well, in this, I was going to let you keep going, but she says, what is your recommended number of follow-ups with no answer before you ditch the lead or put on long-term follow-up, which I think, talk about the original one first. So the one where you call, leave voicemail, text, email.
Yeah. So we do that the first day. So call, then text, then email, then nudge text.
When's that nudge text going?
It depends, man. Some of my agents love to do it 15 minutes, 20 minutes in after that first text. I can go between 30 to 45 minutes because I don't know if you're in a meeting or not. and I don't know how long that meeting is going to be. And that's why I'm kind of like, well, if I nudge you 15 minutes later and you're still in that same meeting, I'm not going to hear anything. Right. So I'm always testing it out. I actually do a lot of the ones that I get personally, like this Nathan guy. I was a manual one that I don't automate. So I don't automate 10% of all my leads so that I can keep on coming up with newer solutions like, hey, is this working or is this not working? Let me test it out. But that's usually our first day. And then we still have our ISAs trying to call them too.
So let's assume for the sake of this call that nobody's using an ISA service.
Yeah.
So day one is call back 15 to 20 seconds later, leave a voicemail if they don't answer. Then text immediately after leaving the voicemail.
Yeah.
Then send the exact same text message via email.
Mm-hmm.
Then 15 to 45 minutes later, send them another nudge text. This is all day one. Anything else in day one?
It depends what time in the day. If it's before noon, I would probably try them again with another phone call around 4 to 5 p.m. So prime time for calling 4 to 6 p.m. usually. And so I'd try anywhere around there during my follow-up time.
Okay.
Which brings up another good point. The reason most people fail at follow-up is because they don't have a follow-up time. So if I say, hey, Jeff, follow up with this person at this time. Most people are like, okay, I'll put it on my day. So what I recommend is you have a follow-up time every day. You don't have to stick to it every day because your day changes, but know that if you didn't do it that day, the next day it's going to be at the same time. So a lot of my agents love to do it from 4 to 6. If they're not showing property, that's their follow-up time. That's their backup plan every day. Follow up from 4 to 6, follow up from 4 to 6. This way, if I tell you, Jeff, all right, follow up with this person, you know it's going to go from 4 to 6. Mm-hmm. If you put it at 2, if you put it at 11, you're not going to follow up with them because that just doesn't go in your day unless that's your call time. Nick has a question. You mentioned the slow drip. What does that entail? Are you calling him, texting him? Nick, good question. I have a combination. I have a whole drip that involves voicemail, text, email, and video text. And that is spread out for let me get to that last one first, on number 9 on the follow-up thing that I have, so I can explain to you how we categorize them after and how we determine to do what with them. But good question, Nick. So where was I? I just finished number 4. Vary your approaches. Number 5, determine if they need your service. If not, they're not interested. So here's one thing. Too often, we're trying to determine the interest of the prospect, and we really want everybody that we get to be real. And sometimes we have to know when to just let them go. And a lot of us don't know when to let go who, so our database is full of shit, right? And I think it's important to really determine who's who. And I'll skip down to number 9.
Hey, Tristan, before you go on here too, for everybody who's on this call and everybody who registered, do you have this list?
Yeah, I have it.
Shareable version that we could share to everyone?
I'll send it to you. You can share it to everybody.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. Keep going.
All right, so I'm going to skip to number 9, which is categorize, so that people understand really when people say they're not interested, what do you do? And people don't categorize their database, and it causes big problems down the line. Because now if I'm going to go and call the leads today, Jeff, who am I calling? Am I just kind of randomly picking people? Am I starting with past clients, Sphere, most recent visited to my website? What? Right? I like to start with my A's, but if you haven't categorized, you don't know what your A's are. So here's a categorization that we did just to simplify our lives. So it's across the board for most of our team. Here, A is they're pre-qualified and ready to see homes. Not pre-approved, pre-qualified, and they're ready to see homes. That's an A client to me. There aren't going to be very many, right, that you're working with at one time. And some people on my team only have 1 or 2, and that's okay, right? Once you're done with them, you're done helping them for that time for follow-up, then you go to your B ones. Bs are they want to see homes, but they're not pre-qualified. Or in our case, they don't have proof of funds. They haven't given us that statement that shows that they're going to purchase this home for $2 million and the cash is in the bank, right? That's B. Wants to see homes, but not pre-qualified. Then C, 3 to 6 months out. Right. So you see now when I sit down, Jeff, and I open up my whatever it is, Follow Up Boss, Commissions Inc., Firepoint, whatever. If I've categorized them and I have tags A, B, C, I can just go show me the A's. All right, I'm going to go through the A's. Oh, there's only 3 of them today or total. That's fine. Then I go to my B's. Let's go to the B's. And there, when I get to B's, hopefully I've got like 15 to 20, a little bit more. Right. And then when I get to C's, there could be a ton. Right. 3 to 6 months out is a while. But the thing is, you know that this is the way that you're calling every day. A, B, C. Right. And then D is 6 months or longer. Because when I talk to people generally online and we go through the whole thing and I know they're not serious, I'm like, so, well, when are you looking to purchase? Next year. I go, okay, so next year we're looking at January or February, maybe springtime, end of fall. It's like, well, I don't know, maybe 6 months out, probably. Well, that's like the go-to number, 6 months, right? 6 months to a year. And so what I always ask is, well, what's going to happen then for you to want to purchase? I mean, are you guys retiring? Is somebody graduating? What's happening? And that's one question we don't ask often. What's happening then? Like if you tell me you're doing something in 8 months, well, I want to know what's happening to make you want to move, right? Because I'm putting that in the notes. I want to know your motivation. What's happening then? This way I can categorize you. So D is 6 months or longer, and then E is just not interested. This is for buyers. So what we do is this way, I always know after I call the people that just visited our site that we have been able to get a hold of, I'm going A, B, C, D, right? I hardly ever get to D's because all of the C's are taking up my time. But, they'll come up because we've got them categorized correctly. And then we have a whole ISA team that's calling a lot of our D's, and then our E's just get blasted by mass text to see if we can bring them back to categorize them from A to C, right? That's where we want them.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Let's see what we got.
So go back to the ones you skipped. I think you were at.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to number 6. But Shelly, what's your recommended number of follow-ups with no answer before you ditch the lead? I don't usually ditch the lead completely because we leave them in our system and we auto drip them properties. But for the purpose of following up intentionally with them, I would say after a month, I wouldn't continue past that to purposefully call them up. I would just let it be automated after that. Slow drip, I got that one. What's Shelly? Would a seller be an A if they want to list and are getting ready to go on market? Do you use another category? So a seller in that case, they'd be a B because they haven't committed to me in any way, right? But once I get commitment, they're an A.
What about categories for sellers?
That's a whole different one. We can talk about that, but let's finish this up first. Mm-hmm. You know what? When we talk about farming, let's go over the categorization of sellers. When we can do that next.
Got it.
Those pieces that we have are pretty sick. Okay, number 6, categorize the lead in a time frame and committed level, which is part of the number 9. And I think people don't do this enough. And what I did is I really want to give you some motivation to actually do it, because this is where a lot of agents and brokers stumble. They don't have a clean categorization process. I remember we were consulting with one broker that had, I think they had 50 categorizations, and I was like, this is insane, dude. You want to make it simple, right? And concise. so that agents can understand it. If I'm looking at it and I'm confused, then what the hell are your agents who are working with you doing? You want people to use it. So really categorize. The easiest thing is categorize from A to E, or maybe A through G if you want to go a little bit further. But have it super simple so that people that are working with you and yourself can understand it. Because after a while, the more complicated it gets, the more you're going to hate it too. So number 7, ask if you should stop reaching out. So if you followed up a minimum of 15 times and still haven't heard back, it's worth asking directly. Like one of our emails, close to our last email, says, hey, have we dropped the ball? Or am I spamming you? There's one text that I send out towards the end that says, am I spamming you? And one guy goes, no, you're not. Keep on spamming me. He says, no, you're not, but keep on spamming me. I'm like, okay, that was weird. That was funny, but weird. But ask him straight out. Don't be afraid to ask, hey, am I wasting your time? That's a great subject line. Did I drop the ball? Maybe overused now, but am I spamming you? Things that really get people to pause and allow them to say no. Remember this, right? Never split the difference. Remember, you want them to get to say no. And I think that email, maybe day 15, day 20, day 30, I usually do 15 times touches before I do that one. That can get them to answer back. And rule number 8, ask for referrals. Here's one thing that people don't ask for. And I don't know why. There's two trains of thought here. There's one, I'm just going to do a lot of great things and you're going to send me referrals, Jeff. And then there's the other one, I'm going to do some awesome stuff for you, but I'm also going to ask for the business. And I lean more towards asking, and asking in a way that's not overly aggressive. So let's say you are I'm going to go with a vendor. Let's say you're my inspector, Jeff. And you're part of my follow-up list for my vendors, because I actually follow up with my vendors, right? Local vendors. And one of the questions that I have for them once a year is, hey, Jeff, I know we've been working a while together. It goes something like that, not exactly, but I know we've been working a while together. And do you by any chance know of one person that you can refer me this year? Because that's all I'm looking for, just one referral for this whole year. I just put it as my goal to get one referral from my top 3 vendors, and you're one of my top 3 vendors. Do you think you could get me one this year? Just one, right? That's all I'm asking for. It's not, hey, do you have a referral? Because that goes everywhere psychologically in my head. If I say, Jeff, do you know anybody you're working with that wants to buy a home? Well, anybody, a home. And this way you're really pinpointing it. And if you treat it the same way with clients, where you're asking in the nicest way possible, right? People think, well, I don't even know these people. Jeff, I just met you. This is my 3rd time talking to you, but we seem to be okay talking. And so my follow-ups with you, Jeff. Hey, Jeff, just following up again, man. I noticed that you were looking at homes a little further out from Malibu, maybe towards Pacific Palisades and Santa Monica. Are you open to going to those areas, or do you just want to be mainly in Malibu? And then you're like, no, maybe I'm looking at Pacific Palisades or Santa Monica. I'm like, awesome. Let me change that up for you, just to make sure you're also getting those homes as well. And you're still looking for a house or a condo? Doesn't matter which one. Yeah, still no problem. Also, and Jeff, I know we've only talked a few times, but do you have any family members that are maybe thinking of moving in to the area, or maybe moving out? And that's very specific, right? I'm not saying, do you know anyone? I'm asking for family members. And then I leave a space there, maybe 3-4 times again before I ask, or in person. A lot of people are scared to ask from the leads that they have in their database, but everybody knows somebody. So there's nothing, you're not going to lose anything. If you lost it, then you never had it, right? So that's really number 8. And then we went over number 9. That's really on the follow-up process. That's really what I want my agents typically to focus on.
I love it. I love it. So let's go back to part of the conversation, one of the questions. And I think you really dialed in on more within the first couple of days of follow-up, right? Especially day one. But again, we've established that most agents and just salespeople in general fail at the nurture. And I think it was Nick that had asked the question, and I think Shelly even had it kind of in one of her questions is what does that entail? What does the slow drip entail? And at what point do you put them on it? I think would be the two biggest questions.
Yeah. So once they're categorized, and I know, okay, Jeff, you're looking 3 to 6 months out. That's what you're looking for. And I go, okay, well then let me put you on a drip for 6 months, right? It's going to include texts, voicemail, email, and video text. And the touch is, because you're 6 months out, it's not tomorrow. The touches are going to be spaced out every 2 weeks. That's what they're going to be. If you're looking at 6 months or later, then depending on whether you tell me a year, then that's going to be spaced out more like every month. And also, you're also getting property from me every other day, every week. Whenever property pops up, you're getting it automatically through our systems, right?
I think that's important. So that's not a part of the drip. Like, getting property is automatic. If something falls into their criteria, it doesn't matter when it happens, they're going to get it. The drip is different, which is more personalized, correct?
You got it. And the drip is very personalized. We try that, and that's why categorizing people is so important for us. Like, my drip for somebody who's looking at 6 months or longer is different from 3 to 6 months, or even from people that are not interested. There's a not interested people are just getting our newsletter. That's it, because they're not interested. Mm-hmm. But I want to stay in front of them. Who knows? I have a database of 60,000 people. So I want to make sure that we hit everybody equally. And then the pre-qualified and ready to see homes, I mean, you don't need a drip for those if you're following up with them almost every day, right? The B ones, which are they want to see homes, but they're not pre-qualified, hopefully you're following up with them already every other day, because they're pretty ready to go. So we don't put anybody on those drips, because then it becomes cumbersome taking them off of the auto drips, because you don't know what you just talked to them about. Like, Jeff, if I just talk to you about some open houses and then you get my text that says, do you want to see open houses this weekend? That would be kind of weird. So we really only worry about the 3 to 6 months out ones and the 6 month or longer ones.
This is pretty intense. Okay.
For the buyers, obviously, right. For past clients, we have a whole follow-up system for past clients. It's just different for everybody.
This sounds like a multi-part potential webinar that we can circle back on, and we can just talk about follow-up to past clients, because that's another piece that you commonly hear in the industry that they're not using. Everybody just wants fast money, but if you actually spent more time focusing on the long-term money, and you've got the wherewithal to stick it out, you probably will do much better.
Yeah, and I'll show you. Let me see here. I posted this up on Lab Codes a couple months back. Let me share my screen. Actually, not even like 2 weeks ago. I posted it up 2 weeks ago. So this, I posted it up on Lab Codes. About 2 years ago, I came up with an auto drip through using Agent Legend for our past clients. And it's, I don't know how many drips that is, 3, 6, 9, 12. It looks like 14 or 15 touches in a year for our past clients. And what we go into is day one, voicemail, text, email, text, voicemail, text, voicemail, video, text, email, voicemail, text. And then I go into other ways of being able to stay on top of them. But the idea behind technology is to use it towards your advantage, right? To start looking at technology to be able to leverage your time and be able to focus on the most important thing. Remember that post I posted about Jeff Bezos saying, hey, look, if you want to succeed in a business, pick something that's not going to change in your business. And what's not going to change in our business is relationships. It's not going to change. You fast forward 100 years from now, 10,000 years from now, if humans are still alive, it's still going to revolve around relationships, right? That's it. It's going to revolve around that. And so why not always have one of your focuses be on your sphere or your past clients? Because usually they already like you. And so always have that as something that you're focusing on. This way, if portals change, like Realtor.com screwed us a few months back, Zillow's trying to become a broker and buy a whole bunch of property. Redfin is Redfin. All these companies that can change in an instant, they can't take the other part away from us. And that's our database, right? Those relationships that we've built. So I think if you approach it that way from the very beginning or from now on, you can have a better success. You just have to have a certain time. I think the next thing we should talk about is goal setting and systems, dude. And this can go into follow up and following up and anything else that you want to set up. So what do you think? Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think we already had a topic, but
What's the
you and I
topic?
I don't remember. We'll have to talk off camera. I'll have to pull it up. Real quick, before we finish this, and guys, we're trying to keep these to an hour, so I'm going to try to wrap this up in the next 5 minutes. Just one more question that I'm thinking of, that I'm assuming everyone else is thinking is what do you use for your technology pieces? What are the platforms you're utilizing for the automation?
I use, for the online leads that come through, for the automated process, I still use Agent Legend. We've looked at a couple of other ones that are going to add other pieces to it, but they're not there yet. So we're looking at Happy Grasshopper. They want to add a social media touch and an actual mailer, but they're not out with it yet completely. So as soon as they're at, I'm going to do it. But right now, Agent Legend and FirePoint has some good automation on the back end if you just want to get an all-in-one. Commissions Inc. is still a little bit clunky, even though we use Commissions Inc. And then Ylopo helps us on the retargeting for our past clients and our sphere and our whole database. So they retarget to them on social, so we pop up on social.
Awesome. Very cool. Awesome. It was the perfect open house is the next topic, but we can.
Oh, let's do that. We can do that.
Okay.
Perfect open house is good.
Okay.
We have a lot to talk about, dude.
Yeah, I think this is going to hopefully carry on in perpetuity. There's really no end date in mind. So, and I think this is a great example of there's so much more to talk about. So for anybody who's still here on the call or watches this later, if you have questions after the fact, feel free to fire off a DM, fire off an email, fire off a text message. Tristan and I are both accessible, and bear with us on obviously the time to get back to you, but we'll get back to you. Tristan is very excited to show you a couple of books.
Yeah, the 2 books I talked about.
Yes, yes, and that'll be a topic as well. One that we're going to talk about books. This is not just going to be all real estate. It's going to be some mindset, because that's all important for your business. So. I think this is this was great. I've got a million more questions. I imagine everybody else does too, but we only have an hour, and I think that's all that we have your attention spans for anyway. So thank you for everybody being on the call today. Tristan, is there anything you want to finish with?
No, thanks for tuning in, guys. It's every 2 weeks, right, Jeff?
Every 2 weeks. The next one will be on first and third Wednesday of every month. So the next one is September 18th, and we'll send out multiple emails. We'll put out multiple posts. The next one is going to be on hosting the perfect open house, correct?
Yeah, dude, let's do it. Now I just have to figure out how that works.
Very funny. Very funny. Very funny. All right, guys, thanks for being on today. And with this will be recorded. So if you would like a recorded version of it, just let me know. We'll probably get it out in the next few days. Thank you much.